feel like leadership is less trailblazing and more bushwhacking through chaos with a plastic spork? I get it. If you're overwhelmed, under-resourced, and wondering when exactly you became the official fire putter outer, you're not alone. Leadership is wild, but you don't have to wander through it unprepared. Grab your copy of Leadership on the Rocks: How to Survive, Adapt, and Succeed in the Wilderness of Leadership. It's the ultimate survival guide for leaders who've been handed a title and a to-do list, but not a compass. Because you can lead with clarity, courage, and purpose, even when it feels like you're herding cats in a hurricane. Pick it up wherever you buy books, and let's navigate this wilderness together. This is the Leadership on the Rocks podcast, where we equip and empower leaders like you to thrive in and create harmony between your professional and personal lives. I'm your host, Bethany Reese, and in today's episode, we are celebrating our 100th episode of the Leadership on the Rocks podcast. And I can't think of a better way to celebrate than to talk about how to lead through chaotic times. Because y'all, right now, emotions are high, decisiveness is running rampant, and everything pretty much feels like it's spinning out of control. And I really want to say 100 episodes, I'm in awe and shock that we're even here. But I also know that this is coming out at a very difficult time in our world. And you know what? Maybe it was made for such a time as this. So I want to start this 100th episode with first celebrating you, the listeners. You are leaders that show up every day to serve other people. You are serving your family. You are serving your stakeholders, your team, your organization, your city, your nation, the world. And I applaud you for what you do and how you show up every day. But you know what? You're also showing up, growing yourself. Personal development is huge because as we think about how do we make an impact in the world, it always starts inwardly. Transformation is always from the inside out. It starts with me, the individual. How do I grow myself so that I have better perspective, so that I can love other people better, serve them better? How can I learn about myself and my blind spots? And so transformation always comes from the inside out. And as I think about this 100th episode, I'm just in awe of where we've come. You know, this podcast, let me give you a tiny bit of history on this podcast. As many of you know, I started it a couple of years ago. I had no idea about business. I didn't know anything about podcasts. I listened to them. I was a consumer. I don't know anything about creating a podcast. I didn't know anything about business. I was an educator at heart. You know this about me. And so as I think about that, I stepped into something very scary. I stepped into calling. I have found that we have comfort and we have calling. We have a fork in our lives, and I call it a fork in our faith. And the fork is, do I continue doing what I know? I am comfortable. I know education. I am so comfortable in education. I love education. But then I felt called to go do something else. Ooh, that's scary. I already said, I don't know anything about how to build a podcast. I don't know anything about business. But my calling was, hey, other leaders are struggling just like you are and have been. Let's start the conversation. Let's step out into something uncomfortable, even though you don't know how to do it or where to go or where to even start. Just take the next step. And so as I was facing that fork in the road, you know, do I choose comfort? Do I choose calling? I chose calling. Now, let me not paint this picture that I am perfect. There are so many other areas in my life where I have chosen comfort. So many. But in this one particular, because it is the podcast, I do want to be transparent on it. I followed the calling. And let me tell you how I built the name, the brand, and how, you know, all of this podcast came to be. Let me give you a little bit of history. I was reading the Sermon on the Mount. It's in Matthew chapters 5-7. Jesus is giving his big discourse, his big sermon, if you will, Sermon on the Mount, right? To a lot of people. And it's essentially saying, this is what it means to be a true disciple of Christ. You know, we've had the Old Testament, for everybody listening, had the Old Testament. They knew the laws, 613 laws, very legalistic. But you know what? A lot of their interpretations were off. The heart of what those laws were meant to do was twisted. And I have found in my life that tweak of the heart. I can take something that sounds good, but the tweak of my heart can actually make it a selfish thing, a prideful thing, an arrogant thing, or whatever. And it's all about tweaking my heart back towards Christ. And so as he's preaching, he's talking about how to live as a disciple, everything from love your enemy. Woo, what? Say what now? I mean, that was, I thought the Old Testament was an eye for an eye. He's saying, no, love your enemy. And as he goes through all of these things, please go back and read it. Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7. At the end of that, Matthew chapter 7, verses 24 through 27, he kind of ends it, wraps it up by saying, okay, the person who listens to these words of mine and applies them is like the wise man who built his house on the rocks. And the storms came and the floods rose and all these things happened. The rain came down and his house stood firm. And then you have the foolish man who didn't listen, didn't apply anything. And he built his house on the sand, and the storms came, the waters rose, and his house fell with a great crash. And guys, I'm not reading the scripture. This is the most unscripted, unplotted episode ever. This is truly coming from the heart. And so that story, reading that story, and I've known that story most of my life. I have sang the song as a child, and I sang it with my kids when they were little, right? The wise man built his house upon the rock. I've known this. But as I'm reading this, I have already felt God calling me to speak up and to speak out and podcast. Didn't know how to do it, but I felt the call. And then as I'm sitting there reading this, I'm like, man, Lord, I have built a sandcastle life. I've built sandcastle leadership. I have been more focused on I'm about to drop some major confessions. I was building my leadership more on image. How do I look? Do I look successful? Do I look organized? Do I look like I have it all together? How do the people that I lead look? Do we look like we're high functioning? Do we look like we're getting results? That's a tweak of the heart. You want your people to be professional and to get results. But my tweak of the heart was bent, very selfish. How do we look? How does it represent me? It was image management is what it was. As I'm sitting there having this revelation and conviction of how I had built a sandcastle life and leadership, I was like, man, that's hard. Lord, I'm sorry. Confessing of I'm sorry that I've been so selfish in my leadership. And then I was reading about if you put these words of mine into practice, right? The wise man built his house on the rock. And as I was sitting there, I had this epiphany of when you build a sandcastle life and leadership and the storms come. Oh, FYI, the storms came to both. The man who built his house on the rock, storms came, waters rose. The man who built his house in the sand, storms came, water rose. Storms are coming. Can't avoid the storm. As I'm sitting in that epiphany, and I'm like, I've built the sandcastle life, we so often say, my marriage is on the rocks. My job is on the rocks. We use that connotation of something is hard and it's difficult and it's not going well. It's on the rocks. So much so that I want to have a drink on the rocks. I know a lot of people that get stressed out through the week, and guess what they do? They go and they have a drink to numb their overwhelm. And that's easily where I was, And through that epiphany, that overwhelm is because of the sandcastle life and the sandcastle leadership that I had. I was overwhelmed. I was in that valley of despair and I didn't know how to get out. And the epiphany was, hang on, stop having a drink on the rocks or, using on the rocks in this negative connotation, and understand that if I truly apply God's word in my life and surrender my life to him and my leadership to him and my heart, get my heart turned back to the way it was meant to be, the way it was designed to be, then I will build my life and leadership on the rocks, with the most essential rock being Jesus, and I can weather the storm. And as I said in that, and I'm like, okay, I have the calling to share, be vulnerable, share all the lessons I've learned in leadership. Not that I had it figured out, but here's what I learned the hard way. Trash or treasure. It's kind of my mantra of how I step into these things. Here's what I learned. Trash or treasure it. Hope it helps. I didn't have things figured out, but I was learning. I was learning in leadership. And a lot of times learning the hard way. But I had that epiphany of, okay, I have a calling to share, to encourage, to coach other leaders. But then now I have the journey, leadership on the rocks. How do we get from on the rocks being negative to on the rocks being positive and strong and able to weather the storms? And so, as we dive into this 100th episode, I want to tackle some hard issues. Not, please hear me on this. I do not have answers. I cannot give you, just follow my 10-step program and the world will be a much better place. I don't have that. I don't have input equals output. If you just do these 10 things, everything's going to be perfect, because that's a lie. That's a facade. Anybody selling you, if you just follow my 10-step program, everything's going to be peachy keen, it's a lie, because storms are going to come. They will always come. So what I have learned, trash or treasure, is when chaos comes, when the storm comes, how do we navigate it? I think that's our job as leaders. I honestly do. Leadership, let's go back and define leadership. Leadership is influence. People are looking to you to know, hey, what are you going to do in this situation? And then how's it going to influence me so I know what I'm going to do in this situation? Leadership is influence. Our job as leaders is to take that influence and to show people not how to run away from problems, right? When we have chaos, we have that natural desire to run away, fight or flight, right? I want to run away. I want to circle my wagons. I want to get away from it. Maybe I'll go get another job that hopefully will have less chaos. Well, that's a lie too. There's fire ants in every yard, y'all. Every job is going to come with some problems. And so we want to run away. But as leaders, we're not called to run away. We're called to run to the storm. The storm's coming. We're going to run to it. We're going to be the buffalo, right? We're going to run towards the storm. And guess what? We're going to show people how to navigate it. That's what leadership is. The storms are coming. How do we navigate them? And so I want to zoom out for a minute and talk about some storms. As of the recording of this podcast, the past 7 days in the world have been heavy. Heavy. Literally the past 7 days, the past week. One, I personally have been going through some things in my family. We have some health concerns going on, and we're, navigating specialists and tests and all the things. I'm not going to dive into that, but we know everybody has something personal in their own lives with their family and things that they're navigating. You always have that with you. Two, in the U.S., we've had another school shooting. We've had the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We have a whole lot of people stepping up to microphones, including me, right, who are now talking about the status of the world. Zooming out to the world, we have a lot of conflict going on. We still have the war in Ukraine and Russia happening. We have Israel and Hamas, that's greatly affecting Gaza. We have China and Taiwan. We have China and the trade wars with the U.S. It's like if you are on social media for any amount of seconds, you're going to be hit with negativity. If you watch the news, tons of negativity. You just, I sometimes just kind of look at the headlines of news articles to get an idea of what's going on in the world. Negativity. It's heavy. There's a lot. And that's just the last 7 days. The last 7 days. That's not even the last, month, year, decade. The world has a lot of chaos in it. A lot of storms are happening. So as we sit here in this 100th episode, I can't help but feel called to share, or at least ask the question. I don't have an answer, but I have the question. What do we do as leaders? How do we navigate this? How do we navigate it personally, ourselves? And then how do we help other people navigate the chaos, the storms? And so as I sit here with this question, all I can share is what I'm doing. And I can hope that you find clarity in what your next step is. And I think that's ultimately the goal in leadership. While we plan, we have vision of where we want to head, we don't always know the path to get there. And I think sometimes in leadership, the question to ask is, what's the next right thing? I learned that from my head counselor, actually. She asked that question a lot. Karen, if you're out there listening, what's the next right thing? And as I sit here, Lord, what's the next right thing? You know what? I have to first fix the posture of my heart. I told you I have a tweak of the heart. I come at a lot of things pretty much from the selfish. I want comfort. I don't necessarily want calling. That looks like a harder path to take. You call me out to do hard things. I want comfort. And so I first have to sit in the posture of what's the perspective that I'm taking right now? Am I praying for comfort or am I praying for calling? That's a hard thing to recognize and admit and confess. Ooh, I've been selfish. I've actually been praying for, you know, God, my will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Actually, it's not done in heaven, but you know what I'm saying. I'm selfish a lot in my prayers. I'm coming to recognize that. And so, as leaders, as you have a whole team that's grappling with things going on in their personal lives, with things happening in their city, their state or county or nation or the world, it's heavy. And they're showing up and they're bringing it to work. They got their backpack full of boulders that they're carrying, of all the problems and concerns and challenges of life. How do we show them how to navigate? How do we show them how to empty their backpacks? How do we show them how to show up and still serve other people? And so, again, I don't have answers, but I can share kind of where I'm at in that. And I first want to start with what's the basis for how I live my everyday? What am I called to do? What is my calling every single day? Now, for me, you know this, I cannot separate it from who I am. It's my faith. And I do recognize a lot of you out there maybe don't have a relationship with God or with Jesus. And I pray for you to go through the hardship of life without being able to lean on faith and call out in the name of Jesus, like, help me through this. Whew, there's power in that. And I pray that you are drawn to your faith. But as for me, I mean, that anchors everything that I do. So the world sucks. It's the way it feels. Lots of hard things going on. How do I show up and how do I lead? And how do I show others how to navigate? And I recognize you can't necessarily show up and model your faith before everybody. You can't proselytize in your work. I get that. So please understand there is a difference of what I'm saying. But I'm talking about you, the individual. I'm talking about me, the individual right now. Not proselytizing, not bringing faith into the workplace. It's me personally right now. What am I doing and how am I leading myself in this? And first of all, I'm not leading myself. Let me start there. The anchor of what I do every day when I wake up and I'm feeling heavy and overwhelmed with what's going on personally all the way through the world. I go to Matthew. And the words of Jesus just carry so much beautiful anchored weight to help me stabilize my life. It is the truth that I have to stabilize myself on. And I think, okay, God, how do I show up every single day? And I go to Matthew chapter 22. I am going to read this because I don't want to get it wrong. Where he's talking about the greatest commandment. This is Jesus talking. So verses 37 through 39. And he says, you shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all of your soul and with all of your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. So as I personally think about how I'm going to show up as a human being, and then how I'm going to lead, I anchor on this. How am I loving the Lord my God with all of my heart, soul, and mind? Heart, soul, mind. Am I truly surrendering my thoughts, my words, my actions, my everything to God? Am I sitting before God and saying, God, you are sovereign. You are in control yesterday and every day before that, today, in the future. You knew everything that was going to happen these past 7 days. Now, we are a product of sin on this earth. There is sin, and sin is happening, and it is causing lots of chaos in this world. And God is so good. He is so good. He uses hardship to humble us. Remember how I talked about leadership? I started and it was all about image management. How selfish. When I go through hardship, the first thing God is so good to do is refine me by humbling me. Well, hey, Bethany, let's remove the arrogance that you have. Let's remove the selfishness that you have, the pride that you have. I need you to be humble, Bethany. And I got to sit in that posture and say, God is good. God, let me give you my heart, my soul, my mind. Capture my thoughts to Christ. Let me sit before you and say, this world is yours, I am yours. Empty me of self and show me my next step. So that's where I sit. Number one, sit before God. How am I loving the Lord my God with all of my heart, soul, and mind? And asking him, open-ended prayer. God, show me who you are. Empty me of self and show me what to do next. My next one step. Can't worry about the next 10 steps, the next one step. The second thing, the second greatest commandment, as I sit and I think about all the chaos in the world of how do I show up as a leader and an individual and a human, love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor. We are a society that doesn't even really know our neighbor. We are focused on tasks and busyness, and we have surface level conversations. We don't know what our neighbors are going through. We don't know how to show up for them and to love them truly and to serve them. And so how do we love our neighbor? And I want to dive into 2 books real quickly. The first book is John Maxwell just wrote this. It's called High Road Leadership. It's his newest book, actually. In chapter 2 on high road leadership, can we all agree that we don't want low road leadership? We don't want low road. We want high road, right? So chapter 2 of High Road Leadership is value all people. And here's the quote. Here's how he opens the chapter. He's talking about a conversation he's having with his dad. He's young. He's fixing to get married, just starting out his adult life. And his dad gives him this wisdom. So this is a quote from his father, Melvin Maxwell. Value people, believe in them, and love them unconditionally. Do those things every day, and you will be successful. Value all people. It didn't say value some people. Value the people that think like me, that act like me, that have the same value system, faith that I have. Didn't say that. Value all people. And biblically, think about the story of the Good Samaritan, right? The Samaritan and the Jewish people hated each other, loathed each other. And a priest, the best of the Jewish culture, walked past the man that was beaten, right? Did not love his neighbor. But the Samaritan, who the Jews hated, and the Samaritans hated the Jews, the Samaritan served and loved his neighbor. Who's my neighbor? Everybody. Not the people that just look like you, act like you, think like you. Everybody. I was a high school administrator, so I got to see a huge, I don't know, maybe I'll say small, maybe I won't say huge, a small slice of bigger society. You have all kinds of people, diverse. This is outside of Houston, right? Lots of diversity. We had everybody from the people who wanted to wear the tails and do catcalls and thought they were an animal, to transgender, to LGBTQ, to just your average, I'm not going to make a ruckus in life, I'm going to do what I'm told, to then your people who are probably going to be your next politicians, doctors, lawyers, whatever. The whole gamut. You're called to love everybody. Show up, treat them, value them. So we are called to value all people. The second book I want to dive into is also by John Maxwell, but it's also with Chris Hodges, and it's Jesus, the High Road Leader. So specifically about Jesus. But this is in chapter 8 about how Jesus placed people above his agenda. Woo! I love the name of that chapter. Jesus placed people above his agenda. And so often we operate with agendas, right? My agenda was image management. Now, here's what this says, and it's on page 163, excuse me. Here's the quote. If we see others as weak, we will try to help them. If we see others as broken, we will try to fix them. But if we see others as valuable, we will try to serve them. How do you see your neighbor? Your neighbor is every person. Doesn't matter their background, their faith, their ethnicity, doesn't matter any of that. Everyone is your neighbor. Do you value human life? Do you value the person above their, political alliances, above their orientations or their preferences or whatever, all the things. Do you value the human? And again, I want to go back to, if we see others as valuable, we will serve them. Our job is to love our neighbors as ourselves, right? The quote, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. You have to see people as valuable, all people. And when you see them from that lens first, you're a human and you have value. You will serve them better. You will seek to listen, seek to understand. You can build a relationship based upon just that. You matter. You have value. We've taken our kids a couple of places, and especially when they were little. I want to give you two very short stories. One, we were driving through downtown Houston to get to Hobby Airport. And my daughter is 4. She's 4, y'all. And she said, "Mommy, why are the houses all bruised?" And she noticed that we were in what everybody would probably call the hood. And she noticed these houses don't look like our houses. 4. There's something off. These houses don't look happy. They don't look safe. They don't look whatever her little mind was thinking. She was thinking a lot of things. And so we talked about how every family has value. Even it doesn't matter what anybody's home looks like. We love people. We serve people. How can we help people in different neighborhoods than the one that we live in? How can we love and serve them? It was a great conversation for a 4-year-old. Obviously a short one. She's 4. And then my son was 9 at the time. And then we went on a trip to West Tennessee. No, I'm sorry. It was East Tennessee. We're in the Smoky Mountains, but we flew into Knoxville. And as we're hanging around in downtown Knoxville, we're waiting to get to the airport. We were in this little area, and it had quite a few homeless people just wandering around. And we had some extra water in our bag and some chips that we had from just traveling in the trip. And we talked about, let's go give our water and our chips to these homeless people. And we did. And one gentleman took it, and then he set it on a table and walked away. He was wanting money, not the food or water. And they were offended by that. And the conversation was, number one, these homeless people have value. They are humans created in the image of God. They're struggling, maybe mentally or, definitely financially because they're homeless. But ours is not to worry about what they choose to do. We were called to give them the water and the chips, and he chose to set it there and walk away because we didn't give him the money that he wanted. We don't have to own that. And we're definitely not going to be offended by it. That was a choice he made. But those are 2 stories about great conversations that we had in our family about people that don't live the way that we live. They still have value. And I encourage you that as I think about all the chaos going on in the world, again, we're talking about you personally, how you show up as the leader. Sit before God, right? Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, soul, and mind. Sit before God. God, show me what I'm called to do in this moment, my next right step. And then love your neighbor as yourself. That means you have to value all people, not just the ones that think like you, look like you, and act like you. And so in this 100th episode, considering the chaos in the world, those are the 2 things that I really wanted to hone in on. Is I can't give you the 10-step program of how to lead a conversation about what's going on, but I promise that if you sit quietly with the Lord and ask him to show you, he will be good and faithful, and he will show you your next step. And if you concentrate on valuing other people, no matter where they're at, whatever side they're coming from, if you value them, you will serve them well. And so I'm sorry I don't come with answers, but that's where we're at. The storms are coming. Are you going to build your life and leadership on the sand, or are you going to build it on the rocks? So my friends, until next time, I pray that you continue to build your life and leadership on the rocks, the essential rocks, with the most essential rock being Jesus Christ. God bless. Today's Bible verse comes from Matthew chapter 22, verses 37 through 39. And he said to them, "You shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, and with all of your soul, and with all of your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself.